Welcome back, everyone. So far today, we have learned and seen and heard of the devastating ways in which greenhouse gases are affecting our planet, where a substantial portion of methane comes from, and innovative ways to reduce our carbon footprint. So and innovative ways that include changes in agriculture, changes in the way we grow our food, the way we eliminate waste of food, and through technology. So how do other industries achieve net zero? Well, we're gonna learn. Right now, I'd like to welcome Patrick Flynn. He is Head of Global Sustainability for Salesforce. He is here, he's gonna join me on stage. Come on, Patrick. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks.
All right, make yourself at home.
Okay.
All right. So when you think of Salesforce as a cloud company, it inherently sounds like you wouldn't have a carbon footprint. But today you had a very important announcement. So I'd like to start off with that if we could.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an exciting day. Thank you everybody for being here at the Javits Center for the Nest Summit, part of Climate Week NYC. Thanks for joining me on stage, Layla. At Salesforce, we know that business is the greatest platform for change, and that the true purpose of business is to improve the state of the world. Today, we find ourselves in the middle of a climate emergency. Planet Earth doesn't know how to scream more loudly for help than what we're seeing around us right now. And so it's time for everyone, all individuals, all organizations, all companies, to step forward and do all that they can. And, you know, to me, climate is about so much more than just the environment. Climate is first and foremost about equality. It's those with the least who suffer the most when our planet goes awry. Not to mention the fact that those of us who happen to be alive today are robbing elements of a vibrant, flourishing future that we've all come, you know, this type of planet that we live on, from all future generations. So there's really a fundamental equality issue at play with climate, and that is really what drives me personally. But it's also the best way to create economic resilience, and yes, of course, deliver on environmental impact. So in the face of this big moment where we need companies and leaders to do all of the above, we had a bunch of really exciting news today. So number one, Salesforce is net zero now. Not 2050, not 2040, not 2030, now.
And at 100%.
And 100% renewable. We've achieved that goal. A milestone, a very important milestone on our goal to see all grids 24/7 clean and renewable.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's a huge feat.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous feat.
And it's taken a little bit of time. Well, we'll start maybe with the renewable energy one. We've been at it since 2013. As a cloud company, if you look at our operational footprint, a lot of the greenhouse gas emissions come from the electricity that supports our data centers. Now, we don't own any of our data centers, so we don't actually pay that many utility bills directly. So we've worked either through data center providers or with the help of virtual power purchase agreements, brought new renewable energy onto the grid so that on an annual basis we are matching clean energy, clean electricity to all of the electricity we use globally, data centers and offices and so forth. But like I said, it's a milestone worth celebrating, but also that sort of annual matching 100% renewable energy achievement is just a step. What we really need is 24/7 clean and renewable grids. So we are advocating on Capitol Hill for policies that bring forward, like the CEPP, that bring forward more renewable energy onto the grids more broadly. So net zero, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, 100% renewable energy. We also announced that we're over 40 million trees towards our 100 million tree goal for this decade, and really focused on equality and co-benefits and all the great things that nature-based solutions can bring. And also announced that we've put a whole bunch of new product features into Salesforce Sustainability Cloud.
If I can just stop you for 1 second. So when you started this back in 2013, if I have my years correct here, what was the first thing, though, that you did in that journey towards net zero?
Yeah, so let me explain how we're thinking about net zero and our net zero achievement. First and foremost, we need to all recognize that there's no success for one company or one country only. When it comes to the climate crisis, it is one goal, one outcome. We need a very rapid and just transition to a 1.5 degree future, and no company should be celebrating net zero in the context of a world that fails in that. So, at the highest level, it's a commitment to do everything we can to achieve this shared global goal together. Next step, number 2, is we are going to decarbonize our own full value chain, Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, in line with a 1.5 degree future, which more or less is 50% reduction in location-based emissions by 2030 and near zero by 2040. And as the science continues to illuminate what the right 1.5 degree pathway is, our goal is to at least match that with our full value chain. And so, avoiding and reducing is paramount. What we've done is, across the major parts of our business, real estate, infrastructure, supply chain, travel, developed decarbonization strategies and published those this morning as well, so everybody can see, as part of our climate action plan, the steps we're taking to put avoidance and reduction of emissions at the very front of the strategy. After that is when renewable electricity comes into the picture, and again, really proud that we've reached this 100% renewable energy milestone. And after that, and only after that, if we have any emissions that remain across Scope 1, 2, and 3, we are going to compensate for those with high-quality carbon credits. And we've had panels earlier today even about what high quality means, and we feel like accelerating that last step of investing in high-quality carbon credits to compensate fully for your Scope 1, 2, 3 emissions is a critical piece of the puzzle that every company can step forward with, which sends finance to the places of the world that needs it most, stops deforestation, changes people's lives, upholds equality, and we can't overlook that last step because we need all of the above strategies, the long-term, the medium-term, and these immediate steps as well.
So Salesforce really is taking the lead on all of these things, and you become the example of which companies who use Salesforce can follow. You mentioned the 4 scopes, 1, 2, and 3. You're still working on the 4th. I just wanted to go through the list.
Sure.
One more time. So work from anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Infrastructure,
Yep.
business travel, and supply chain.
Yeah.
So what's the 4th one that is?
So there's a slight distinction here. In greenhouse gas accounting, you've got bear with me, quick flyover. Scope 1, direct emissions like tailpipe emissions or boiler emissions from things that you own and operate. Scope 2, indirect emissions from things you have operational control over. A lot of that for most companies is typically electricity-related emissions. And then Scope 3 emissions, which is really everything else. And there are 15 subcategories of Scope 3, some of them related to upstream and some of them related to downstream. For a software company like Salesforce, a lot of our emissions is in that upstream Scope 3 category, the embodied emissions from the purchase of technology equipment, running data centers, and so forth.
I see.
And so because of that, the supply chain element of our decarbonization strategy becomes critically important. So let me go there. But just to make a fine point of it, those 3 scopes are different than the 4 decarbonization strategies that we lay out in the climate action plan. But let's talk supply chain for a second, because I'm really proud of what we're doing here. First, let's recognize that, we've got, when we talk about value chain, you've got links in the chain beginning with places way up in the economy where things are burned or grown and where a lot of the emissions happens. And then you've got a customer and another customer all the way down. And Salesforce, as a services business, find ourselves pretty far down most value chains. Every link in that value chain is a customer relationship with its supplier. And so for Salesforce, as the world's leader in the customer relationship, it's incredibly important for us to show what it looks like to be a deeply, passionately engaged customer demanding climate action upstream in hopes that that signal gets sent by that supplier to their suppliers all the way up to the places that need to decarbonize and need to decarbonize now.
Right.
And so one of the things we did, we've got a 1.5 degree science-based target. The Scope 3 piece of which is that suppliers representing 60% of our Scope 3 emissions will set science-based targets of their own by 2024. We are already over halfway there, just a year or two in. The supply chain decarbonization movement is one of the brightest spots in all of climate action right now. And we took it a step further in April. We notified all of our suppliers that effective immediately, climate would be part of all standard purchasing agreements from Salesforce. We notified them and we published this legal document. Everybody can check it out. Please take it, use it, give us feedback. It requires them to set science-based targets, disclose their Scope 1, 2, and 3 greenhouse gas emissions, and deliver carbon neutral goods and services to us or pay. And so to me, it's a first of its kind, very direct, clear, unequivocal signal that there's a customer out there that really wants bold climate action now. And the response has just been really great.
I can imagine. How do you endeavor to get your clients, customers on board?
Yeah.
And in practice?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of the model the right behavior. You touched on that. We are trying to do all of the above. From, in the climate action plan, we talk about 6 different pillars of our strategy here: reducing emissions, carbon sequestration, innovation, education, regulation, and advocacy. And we publish all of that in hopes that others might find useful ways within it to really take on their own climate action journey. That's number one. Number two is we try to be a very vocal customer to our supply chain. And everything that I named that we're asking of in that sustainability exhibit, the legal document, we're doing ourselves. And we are also communicating that downstream to our customers as well. And last but not least, because in this emergency, what we need more than anything is everyone to do what they do best. It's true at the individual level. We need artists to make art for climate action. We need lawyers to file lawsuits for climate action. We need software developers to write code for climate action. But it's also true at the company level. Every company's biggest sustainability action, biggest climate action, really has to do with coupling what they do best to bold climate action. What does Salesforce do best? We, over 22 years, have put digital tools in the hands of our customers to help them navigate successfully into the future through things like mobile and social and IoT and blockchain and AI, and now climate change, which is going to hit every one of our customers simultaneously around the world, regardless of industry, and we need to put transformational tools in their hands to help them succeed in that next chapter for themselves. And that's where Salesforce Sustainability Cloud and all the great things that we announced today related to that product comes into the picture. Plus, of course, our Customer 360, because like I said earlier, the customer relationship is inseparable from value chain decarbonization, because each link in that value chain is a customer relationship.
Well, you literally took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to ask you about the Sustainability Cloud 2.0. And so can your customers, can clients now start to use this today?
Yeah.
And implement it in their daily?
That's right. So the story of Sustainability Cloud is great. We built it ourselves because we built it ourselves for ourselves, because we knew that our greenhouse gas emissions data overnight was going to need to look like the quality of our financial data. We needed a comprehensive system of record. We needed a single source of truth and a place to find insight. It was such a success in our own hands that we brought it to market about a year and a half ago. And the response has been great. We're going to hear from MasterCard in a little bit about how they've been using it. And what we announced today is an additional 3 different things. Number one, after the close of our Slack acquisition, which we're so excited about, it's Slack first sustainability. You can use Slack in order to engage and exchange information up and down your value chain related to greenhouse gas emissions. Number 2 is climate action planning. Whereas the tool started as a single source of truth for the footprinting process, more or less sort of a retroactive look at your context, climate action planning turns the camera into the future, and you start to be able to develop scenarios and what ifs and get recommendations about what to do to decarbonize, and also how to invest and compensate for any emissions. And that's where number 3 is so exciting. It's an exchange, a carbon marketplace, a place to support nature-based solutions, a place to collaborate on policy moments that matter for your company. And we are just also so excited about the news related to nature-based solutions in trees, which I touched on a little bit. Trees are our best solution for drawing carbon out of the atmosphere right now. We are losing a football field worth of forest approximately every second right now on planet Earth. And so, we need everybody to join us in the trillion tree movement. Salesforce helped the World Economic found 1t.org. The goal to see the conservation, restoration, and planting of 1 trillion trees on Earth over this decade. We set our own 100 million tree goal that same time, and like I said, we're already over 40 million trees towards that goal.
Fantastic. And so from here, what is the next goal with the 1t.org?
The next is the Global Citizen event.
Oh, okay.
Coming up this Saturday. I hope everybody is going to stick around through the weekend. Central Park. Global Citizen is rallying support for the Race to Zero and 1t.org. We've gotten a tremendous amount of companies involved in setting their own tree goals and joining the Race to Zero as well. So join us Saturday in Central Park, set a tree goal, join the Race to Zero. That's what's next.
Absolutely. And I just have one more question for you. So, when people think about achieving net zero, they see it as maybe something daunting, that how can I possibly achieve net zero while growing a business, while growing the economy? So what would you say to some of the naysayers who fear economic slowdown in their quest to achieve net zero?
First is you look around at all of the signs that we're seeing from a planet that's, really just being pushed to the brink. Flooding, fires, drought, extreme weather events of all types. It's crystal clear that the cost of inaction on climate is far greater than the cost of action, right? And it doesn't need to be viewed as a cost of action in the first place. This is a way to create jobs. We've got the Civilian Conservation Corps from the 30s. And now a similar moment taking place in Congress to see tree planting, a core for tree planting, job creation, equality. And so climate action for the business sector too is really a way, I think, to succeed and outcompete. Every business out there can think about who is your most climate engaged customer right now. Because without a doubt, as surely as the sun's going to shine on Earth tomorrow, more of your customers are going to look like that most climate-engaged customer does today. And so if you want to succeed and grow and find a pathway for innovation that's really going to work, follow that customer. And that's a big piece of why we're also trying to be such a vocal customer to all of our suppliers, because we can model what that most climate engaged customer and what the relationship needs to look like is going forward.
So there's growth there.
Yeah.
There's growth, economic
Yeah.
growth, prosperity.
Yeah, opportunity, innovation, growth, resilience, and at the individual level, this is the most exciting career path you could be on, right? The UN a couple years ago put it that we need rapid, unprecedented changes in all aspects of society in order to have a 1.5-degree future. So every job needs to change. All aspects of society means what you do in your organization is a place where climate action can happen, and you need to raise your hand, raise your voice, find the team in your organization that's leading this charge, offer to join them, and use your brilliant self in this most epic adventure that humanity's ever seen.
And on a personal note, how did you get involved, and where did your passion for the environment come from?
Yeah, completely by accident. It was here in New York City. I was designing high-rise buildings, HVAC systems for high-rise buildings. And I got to see firsthand just how disconnected things were. That we were designing buildings that would last for a really long time, but optimizing them to make the most amount of profit for somebody on day one that probably was never going to live in the building, probably wasn't going to own the building very long, right? And so it captivated me as a puzzle to solve. Why is this so broken? Why are the incentives wrong? How is this communication so bad? And that propelled me into it first as this puzzle to solve, and then only over time just realizing the gravity of what I was captivated by. And so now it's more than a job, it's a calling. I work for Planet Earth, and Planet Earth has a lot of demands right now on people who work for it, and the tools I bring to my job for Planet Earth is the company called Salesforce. And what are all of the tools in that bag that we can use, from using our voice and influence over suppliers, customers, policymakers, employees, our operations across the full value chain, and our superpower, technology in the hands of all of our customers to help them reach net zero faster.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to hear your conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And I touched on Sustainability Cloud a little bit. We're going to hear about MasterCard's experience with it, but even before that, we are going to run a quick video so you can see it for yourselves. Layla, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you.